What if I told you the most powerful way to destroy a narcissist isn't by fighting them, but by starving their very reason to exist? In this video, we will expose the psychological warfare tactics that shatter their ego without raising your voice. A cold war of silence, strategy, and subtle domination. In the kingdom of illusion, the narcissist sits high upon a throne, one not made of stone or steel, but of pure ego. This throne is delicate, more fragile than porcelain, yet guarded more fiercely than a king protects his crown. Understand this, you are not dealing with a mere person. You are confronting a self-constructed deity, a false god who worships their own reflection more than anything else in this world. And like any false god, their power exists only so long as others believe in it. The narcissist breathes admiration. It is not simply a desire. They need it to live. Strip away the admiration and what's left, an insecure child in a grand costume. Their sense of self is so hollow that it must be constantly fed from the outside. Compliments, attention, flattery, these are their oxygen. Their grandiosity is not confidence, it is survival. You are not witnessing strength. You are witnessing desperation, carefully disguised. Now, to destroy this throne, you must see what holds it up. Every gesture, every smile, every manipulated conversation. It all serves a singular purpose: to reinforce their illusion of superiority. They are addicted to being the center, addicted to being right, addicted to being praised. It is not enough to exist. They must dominate the room, the conversation, and the perception of everyone around them. But here's the twist. The very thing that sustains their ego also makes it incredibly vulnerable. Because it is external, it is unstable. Their identity is not rooted in truth, but in performance. And like any performance, it requires an audience. Once the applause dies, so does the illusion. This is where you begin. Don't confront them head on. You don't walk into a palace and throw stones at the throne. That only gets you imprisoned, or worse, manipulated back into submission. Instead, you remove what supports the throne. Slowly, quietly, strategically, refuse to play their game. When they boast, you stay unmoved. When they seek praise, you offer indifference. When they provoke you to feed their drama, you respond with disinterest. Each time you deny them your emotional reaction, you chip away at the very foundation of their power. Your silence, your composure, your refusal to validate their fantasy. It is not weakness, it is war. A narcissist cannot thrive in the absence of admiration. They cannot survive in the presence of indifference. If they are the king, then attention is their gold. Stop spending it on them. Withhold your currency, and you bankrupt their reign. They may respond with rage, with guilt, trips, with threats disguised as affection. This is predictable. A cornered ruler always lashes out. They will call you cold, they will call you disloyal, but understand this is not about love. This is about control. Control over your thoughts, your feelings, your gaze. And the moment you reclaim that control, even slightly, you become dangerous to them. Watch their behavior. It is all calculation. They smile when they win your praise. They sulk when you ignore them. They punish you with silence when you don't serve their agenda. This is not emotional expression. It is psychological strategy. Every reaction they give is a tactic to reinforce the idea that they are the superior and you are the admirer. Flip this dynamic and they tremble. They walk into every room expecting a spotlight, and when they don't get it, they will try to take it by force. Through exaggeration, through victimhood, through charm, through lies. But if you offer no applause, no stage, and no spotlight, what then? You create a vacuum they cannot tolerate. And here lies the deepest secret. The narcissist's ego was never built for solitude. It was built for an audience. It cannot self-sustain, it cannot heal, it cannot reflect. All it can do is demand, and when the demands are no longer met, the collapse begins. Do not be fooled by their confidence. It is rehearsed. Do not be fooled by their stories. They are edited. Do not be fooled by their certainty. It is borrowed from your belief in them. Take back your belief, and the mask starts to crack. Take back your focus, and the illusion fades. Take back your emotional investment, and they are left alone with what they fear the most, their true self. They will do anything to avoid that reflection. They will project, they will blame, they will distort reality just to keep you convinced that their throne is real. But once you understand that this throne was always imaginary, once you see that it is held together by the strings of your own reactions, you realize something powerful. You don't have to attack the narcissist, you just have to stop being their mirror. There is one thing more precious to a narcissist than power: image. To them, image is reality, not truth, not principle, not integrity, only how they appear. They do not care about being good. They care about being seen as good. They do not seek truth. They seek perception. And the most dangerous thing you can do to such a creature is not insult them, but distort the mirror they gaze into every single day. This mirror is you. You are the reflection they feed from. Your reactions shape how they see themselves. When you admire them, they feel godlike. When you challenge them, they feel exposed. The narcissist has no stable identity. They are made of fragments borrowed from the admiration and fear of others. So to control the narcissist, you do not need to raise your voice. You need only to control the reflection they depend on. They will test you early. They will offer exaggerated stories, name, drop status, highlight their wins, and present a polished image crafted to provoke awe or envy. Every compliment they fish for is not random. It is a strategic pull for control. And when you bite, when you validate, when you confirm their delusion, you become part of the illusion they're building. But the moment you stop reflecting what they want to see, they become unsettled. Watch closely. When you show subtle non-compliance, when you don't laugh at their forced joke, when you don't gasp at their tale of grandiosity, when your eyes don't widen at their so-called brilliance, you will see a flicker of something behind the mask. A glitch in the performance, a micro-expression of panic, anger, or confusion. You've broken the script, and to a narcissist, a broken script is a personal crisis. They don't know who they are without external reflection. Their self-image is not internal, it's outsourced. And the moment you show them a version of themselves they don't approve of, a less impressive, less admired, less feared version, they begin to collapse inside. But they won't show it, not at first. They'll try to regain control. They'll switch strategies. Maybe they'll become more charming. Maybe they'll get colder. Maybe they'll guilt you or flatter you, or suddenly play the victim. These are all mirrors too. Each tactic is an attempt to provoke a specific reflection. When you learn to see this manipulation for what it is, you become immune to it. Their charm no longer affects you. Their intimidation no longer frightens you. And most importantly, their validation no longer excites you. You stop dancing to their rhythm, and now they must face the silence of their own insecurity. What most people fail to realize is that narcissists aren't just obsessed with appearing superior. They're terrified of being exposed as ordinary, average, forgettable. That is their deepest fear, and it is why they curate every word, every outfit, every post, every interaction. It is all designed to construct a mirror that tells them what they want to believe, that they are rare, desired, untouchable. So when you, calmly and without effort, refuse to participate in the reflection, it sends them into crisis. When you are unimpressed by their grandiosity, unmoved by their theatrics, and unaffected by their manipulations, you take back the power they so desperately try to hold over you. You don't argue. You don't attack. You simply show them a mirror they cannot control. This is psychological warfare at its most refined. It is not loud. It is not cruel. It is simply surgical. You become the observer, not the participant. You see the patterns. You stop rewarding the performance. You speak less and you say more. Your stillness forces them to wonder what you see, and when they don't know what you're thinking, they become anxious. They spiral because in their world, not knowing how others see them is worse than being hated. If you must speak, speak with questions, not declarations. Questions unravel their illusion faster than confrontation ever could. Why do you always mention that? Do you think that's true, or is that how you want it to look? I wonder why you need everyone to see it that way. These are not attacks, they are quiet daggers. They leave no blood but create deep internal wounds because they destabilize the narcissist's cell. Image at its core. You've held up a distorted mirror, and now they must sit with the reflection. A narcissist only feels powerful when they are dictating how others see them. When they lose control of your perception, they lose control of their own narrative. And if enough people stop playing the mirror, if enough reflections begin to contradict the illusion, they begin to fracture. Not because you destroyed them, but because they were never whole to begin with. There is a common mistake people make when dealing with narcissists. They confront, they argue, they expose, they shout and demand to be heard, believing that truth is enough to shatter the illusion. But truth means nothing to a narcissist. You cannot reason with someone who is allergic to introspection. You cannot win by fighting a battle that was designed to keep you trapped inside it. If you want to destroy a narcissist's ego, you must understand the true battlefield, not confrontation, but starvation. A narcissist is not driven by logic. They are driven by supply, emotional fuel, attention, admiration, fear, praise, or drama. It does not matter whether you love them or hate them. As long as your focus is on them, they are fed. Positive attention flatters their fantasy. Negative attention still confirms their importance. Indifference, however, indifference is the poison they cannot digest. They need to provoke a reaction. That is the entire structure of their behavior. Their outbursts, their manipulations, their sudden silence, their charm, their cruelty. It all exists to elicit something from you. A rise, a defense, a tear, a compliment, a breakdown. They feed on your energy because they have none of their own. Their ego is not powered internally. It is parasitic. It clings to the reactions of others in order to survive. The moment you withdraw your energy, they begin to starve. This is why confrontation fails. When you fight them directly, when you try to expose them, when you attempt to hold them accountable with facts or truth, they twist the narrative. They don't hear you, they don't self-reflect. Instead, they flip the script, paint themselves as the victim, accuse you of overreacting, and recruit others to their side. You thought you were shining a light on the truth, but instead you walked into a trap, a performance where you've now become the villain in their story. They want you to fight. They want you to plead, scream, beg, cry. These are all proof that they still matter to you. Even your hatred feeds them. Even your disgust confirms their impact. But when you stop reacting, when you stop explaining yourself, defending yourself, or trying to be understood, you begin to take away the one thing they cannot live without: significance. This is where your power begins. You don't respond to their bait. You don't correct their lies. You don't try to change their mind. You simply become emotionally unavailable. You become the gray rock in a storm, silent, calm, boring, and unaffected. They will test you. They will provoke you harder. They will escalate, shift tactics, make bold accusations, or try to guilt you. But all of it is a last attempt to get fed. Every move they make is a sign of starvation. The narcissist cannot exist in an emotional vacuum. They begin to decay when there is no one left to applaud, fear, or chase them. They start creating chaos elsewhere, trying to stir the pot in places where they might still find an emotional reaction. But if you remain still, grounded, emotionally disconnected, you become unplayable. You are not just silent, you are unreadable. And nothing terrifies a narcissist more than losing control of the emotional climate. They need your energy to maintain the illusion. Your reactions validate their existence. Your pain makes them feel powerful. But when you withhold all of it, when you become emotionally invisible, you expose their greatest weakness. They are not in control. They never were. They were only borrowing power from your attention. To starve them is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-liberation. It is to recognize that your energy is currency and that not everyone deserves to spend it. The narcissist, once deprived of this currency, begins to unravel. They chase you harder at first, then they resent you, then they discard you, and eventually, they replace you, not because they've moved on, but because they need a new source of supply. They cannot be alone with themselves. That is the punishment. That is the collapse. You, however, do not collapse. You regain your peace. You regain your clarity. Because in refusing to feed them, you reclaim your energy. You rise above the chaos they so desperately try to create. You no longer serve as their reflection, their fuel, their source. You become untouchable, not through force, not through words, but through absence. Cold, quiet, calculated absence. The kind of absence that starves their illusion until it suffocates. You cannot defeat a narcissist by playing fair. They do not operate by the rules of logic, decency, or honor. They are masters of manipulation, deception, and illusion. And if you confront them directly, you step into their world unarmed. But there is another way. If you want to truly dismantle a narcissist, you must learn to outplay them in their own game, quietly, patiently, without ever letting them know that you're doing it. The narcissist builds their power through perception. They craft a carefully managed persona, designed to provoke admiration, fear, or envy. Everything they do is calculated to create an image that keeps them above others. They lie with ease, twist facts without shame, and seduce their way into control with charm that hides their emptiness. But this game only works if no one else knows the rules. The moment you begin to see the blueprint behind the mask, you become a threat, not because you fight, but because you understand, and understanding is the first weapon. Once you see the pattern, you no longer fall for it. You don't react the way they want. You don't defend when accused. You don't flatter when praised. You detach emotionally but stay alert strategically. You become unpredictable. That is the beginning of dominance. Narcissists thrive on controlling how you feel. But if they can't control your feelings, they lose their grip on the game entirely. You begin to mirror their tactics, not by becoming like them, but by becoming strategic. When they expect you to justify yourself, you go silent. When they try to provoke guilt, you stay emotionally neutral. When they push, you pull back. You never give them what they want. You operate on a level they don't see coming. Cold, observant, 2 steps ahead. They are experts in confusion, so you become a master of clarity. They will throw veiled insults wrapped in compliments. You respond with a calm smile and a question that exposes their double meaning without emotion. They expect defensiveness. You give indifference. They expect flattery. You give silence. You hold the frame, always. The narcissist wants control of the narrative, so you begin to reshape it, subtly. You don't accuse. You imply, you don't declare war. You shift perception. You ask questions in public that make others pause. You highlight contradictions without emotion. You let them expose themselves without needing to point fingers. Because the moment they feel their image slipping, their ego panics. The mask starts to crack. You don't need to convince people. You only need to create doubt. A single well-placed question can unravel an entire illusion. Why do they always need to be the center of everything? Have you noticed how quickly they change when no one's watching? Let others connect the dots. You simply hold the mirror a little too long. In private, you maintain silence as your power. They crave attention, deny it. They escalate, stay calm. They accuse, ask for clarity instead of explaining. They expect you to be emotional, be surgical. Every reaction they seek, you replace with stillness. You stop being a source. And when you stop being a source, they scramble to replace you because they cannot survive without control over someone. And even if they try to discard you first, know this. It's not because they've won. It's because they've lost control. They only discard when they sense they can no longer extract value. But even in your silence, you've left a scar. You became the one who couldn't be manipulated, the one who saw through the mask and never looked away. You outplay them by refusing to be predictable. You speak when they expect you to be silent, and you go silent when they expect you to break. You do not beg, you do not explain, you do not chase. You stay composed when they unravel. That is real power, not reacting, but controlling the field they try to dominate. A narcissist expects weakness disguised as kindness. So when they face calm dominance, their tactics fail. They expect you to fall apart, so you rise. Quietly, strategically, you never stoop to their level, you rise above it, and watch as they try to climb after you and collapse under the weight of their own ego. They built the game to win. You rewrite the rules to make them irrelevant. And in the end, they don't even know how they lost because you never fought them. You outmaneuvered them. You didn't scream. You didn't plead. You didn't expose. You simply made them feel powerless in the only world they ever controlled, the one inside your head. So now you understand, a narcissist is not destroyed by fire, but by emptiness. You do not win by exposing them. You win by refusing to participate. You dismantle them not through noise, but through silence. Not by clashing swords, but by removing the battlefield altogether. You control the outcome the moment you stop reacting. You strip them of their illusion when you withdraw your attention. You break their ego when you no longer serve as their reflection. And above all, you outplay them when you understand their game better than they do. This is not revenge. This is strategy. This is not chaos. This is calculated power. Let them chase the spotlight. Let them perform for applause. Let them drown in the need to be admired. You remain the shadow, calm, unbothered, untouchable, because the one thing a narcissist can never destroy is the person who refuses to feed them.